Hello and welcome to Car Dealer Live. I'm James Baggett, founder of Car Dealer magazine, and today on the show I'm delighted to be chatting to Group Renault UK and Ireland's Managing Director Vincent Tourette and Network Operations Director Louise O'Sullivan. Good afternoon to you both.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much for joining us. So, quick introduction for you. Vincent has been MD of Renault UK since 2017, but he's worked in what probably feels like almost every region for the group, from Japan to Denmark over the years. Louise has been with Renault since she was a graduate, so she knows the brands inside out. In 2015, she became the head of Dacia, or Dacia, I'm sure they're going to correct me in a moment on which is right, for the Northern Territories, before taking on her current role in January 2019 for network operations across the group. Now, if you're watching on YouTube, you can submit your questions to us via the chat function. They'll be fed through to me and I'll ask the guys if we get there. But firstly, I'm going to ask my questions. Vincent, thank you very much for joining us once again. Can I just first ask you how your dealers have found the current crisis?
Very, very difficult, I assume, like everyone else. It's been quite sudden, quite radical, let's put it that way. Even if, based on what was happening in the rest of Europe, we could see it coming. So we had that benefit basically to be 2 to 3 weeks behind the rest of Europe, which gave us a bit of time to see it coming and to prepare for it, especially with the teams, with the tools that we were going to need during this lockdown. It's a difficult period. We hardly have any income, obviously. So we face huge costs, no income. For the moral, it's also not an easy one. So we are trying to manage that balance in the best possible way between the absolute priority, which is to stay safe and make as priority one the health of everybody, and at the same time try to protect our businesses as much as we can together with our dealers.
So up until the point of the lockdown, Vincent, how was business for your group?
The business was good. As you said, I joined second half of 17, so we worked very hard in 18 and 19, especially to prepare for Brexit. So these 2 years were intense, but very good years for us in terms of commercial and financial performance together with our dealers. So the beginning of this year was the same, was very good. And on the back of the introduction of 3 key models for us, so the new Clio at the end of last year, the new Captur at the beginning of this one, and the new Zoe in March, basically, we had a very good start of the year. So obviously this came at the worst possible moment. So the peak of March, obviously, for everyone in the industry. And for us, because we were having a very nice ramp up in terms of order take. So voilà, so good start of the year, difficult situation since, but very confident in the future when we will be able to fully restart, because obviously these brand new cars that have been praised by the press are still there. The Zoes arrived in the showrooms just before the lockdown, but they are still there. So they've not put a lot of mileage on the clock, but they are available to be driven. And later in the year, we will introduce the rest of our range, which is the e-tech range, so hybrid and plug-in hybrids, that are also fundamental for us and that will reinforce our position in low emission vehicles, where we've been front runners for a few years now.
So you've clearly got a very busy year ahead of you. This has probably come at the worst possible time for you. We'll move on to some of those points in a moment, Vincent, if you don't mind. But we've obviously had some news last night from the Prime Minister, and I'd like to touch on that as quickly as we can. Well, we say news, it was actually quite confusing for the industry. The story we published last night, half the experts said dealers could go back to work today. Half of them said definitely not. There's thoughts that they're included as part of retail on June the 1st. We haven't got any detail. We're expecting that in a couple of hours. What was your take on that information that was given by the Prime Minister last night, and what are you saying to dealers?
I was also slightly confused, to be fair, because it was not crystal clear. My interpretation, but we will know more obviously in a few hours later today. My interpretation is that basically, based on the fact that people can go out of home and circulate, basically, it should give us the opportunity to be doing at least click and collect, even if the showrooms have to remain closed. So that's the first thing, because that's an important one. We've got a lot of vehicles and customers waiting for the delivery of their cars. So it would give us the possibility to start doing that and prepare for the future. So that's the first element. For the rest, something that is also a bit strange and a bit confusing is that there's no alignment within the UK. So that will be a difficulty to manage between our dealers in Scotland, in Northern Ireland, in Wales, or in England. Something we will see how to manage in the best possible way. But I took it as a positive signal, even if I would have preferred something clear and from now on. We've been working very hard to be ready for restart. The restart we had scheduled as of today, basically. So we are ready for it. We will adapt to whatever confirmation we will have in terms of what is possible and what is not. Obviously, as I said earlier, safety remains the key priority for our staff, for our dealers, and obviously for our customers.
So it's an interesting point you make there, Vincent, about click and collect and the fact that you think that is okay now. How are you advising your dealers on putting that in place? Are you thinking that they can open their dealerships up for a certain section to hand over the cars, or are they going to have to do these handovers on the forecourt?
Alors, I hope our preference will be the possibility to open part of the showroom in order to do the handovers for many reasons, but the main one being safety. I don't see why doing it in that way would be less secure and less safe than potentially delivering cars on the street at people's home. So I think if I look at it globally, it would probably be the best solution, first to give the possibility to people to come to us in a very sanitized and safe environment, because all conditions would be there to do it in the best possible way. And two, ideally, yes, it's better if you can do it inside a building where all the conditions have been met in order to protect the customers and the staff.
I suppose the problem here is the fact is showrooms have to be closed, retail has to be closed. So is by opening up a very small section of your showroom contravening the rules? What are you going to do to get some clarity on that? Where are you expecting that clarity to come from?
But to be fair, from the government or potentially through the discussions with the SMMT. If it's not the showroom, it can be on site or it could be somewhere else in the building. But again, I think it's very important to prioritize the fact to do it in the safest possible conditions. And again, I've always been skeptical about the possibility to deliver home while potentially you do it on the street or whatever. So you cannot guarantee that it's absolutely safe. You can guarantee that on dealer side. So I hope that's what will be possible.
And I suppose the other point is you've probably got a large number of your retailers open when it comes to their after sales departments.
Absolutely.
I mean, surely they could do those handovers in the workshops.
Exactly. That's also a possibility. When I say it doesn't necessarily have to be in the showroom, it could be in the workshops. It could be outside on site. But again, I think on site, wherever we can guarantee that it's absolutely safe, which is much more difficult to do anywhere else.
Vincent, thank you for that. I'm just going to move to Louise on the same topic. Louise, what are you hearing from the dealers that you're speaking to on a daily basis? Are they preparing to open now?
Yeah, really in a phased manner. Obviously, many of them, as you know, have taken up the furlough scheme. And so they're really preparing in waves now to come back and prepare the sites. Many of them were bringing people back, certainly some last week, early this week, just in its first way to prepare the sites, as Vincent said, really, in case the announcement came today that we could reopen. So yes, they're preparing and clearly they'll react as we will. But, you know, again, they're very responsible. I've been very impressed, actually, you know, with the way they've managed the situation. We've clearly guided them through that. But they've very much taken the responsibility on themselves for their staff, their customers, and clearly talking to them, that is absolutely the most fundamental point for them. Beyond business and delivering vehicles, it is the safety and well-being, and the discussions with them we've been having, whether that's through the dealer council meeting or one-to-one I'm having on the phone with them, has very much been, the heart of our discussions in how we form the policies moving forward, and that we support them basically in whichever way they want to move. Clearly, we'll follow the government guidelines, but we'll work with them to support them on that.
I've seen some fantastic stuff from the dealers over the last few days about how they're preparing for the reopening. I've seen some preparing some brilliant videos. Others are putting in some serious PPE to their dealerships. What do you think is an absolute minimum dealers should be using in terms of PPE?
Well, we actually have worked with the group, within the group themselves, and there's 4 elements. We actually have a pack. We, again, really will go with our dealers and our dealer groups in terms of their own decision, but certainly our process has 4 elements to it: gloves, masks, disinfectant, and hydrocolloid gels. That's the pack that we have offered. We, have a group on a European basis, have sourced that for our network at cost. And we are supplying that to our network if they wish to have it. Clearly, those things are in high demand. Many groups have actually sourced their own. That is fine. But over half of the network have ordered with us and said we are sourcing those things at cost. Clearly, again, we'll follow government guidelines. The discussions about masks, we'll see what we'll follow the government guidelines on that. But we are sourced to do that. And in fact, the first deliveries for the first wave went out today. And the second batch of the network will start later this week. So again, as you've said, we have policies within, again, as Vincent's mentioned, because we're part of obviously a European group where other markets were much further ahead. We've been able to learn from those markets, adapt to the UK, and help our network in terms of processes. Again, we are also creating a video. We will have customer processes when we're able to open that we'll be able to follow, with clear signage and markings and films for our customers and for our dealers to follow, and we will be providing full training. So we're doing all of that in the background. As Vincent said, we were ready to go today. Clearly it won't open today, but we will be ready, and everything is in the background. We've been working constantly with our dealer council to prepare that for our network, so when the doors can open, we have everything ready for them.
When do you think that will actually be, from what you've seen over the last 24 hours? I'm going to ask you to guess what date it will be. What would you say?
I'm in 2 minds, I'll be honest. I think, as we said, if it's a retail environment of a showroom handover, then probably we're looking at June. If it's in terms of a separate collection, which is, I think, as an industry, what we would favour, at least getting costs of those customers and vehicles who have outstanding orders with us, then maybe that will come sooner, but we have to obviously wait for that to come. But I think in terms of, how can I say, order take for the future, new customers, unless it's online clearly, then probably we're going to be waiting, I think, another 3 weeks. But I hope fulfillment might come a bit earlier to aid certainly the cash flow for the network, obviously, of those customers, and that's clearly what we need to see.
Just if I can, sorry, James. Just to add a point, I think yes, it will be June at the earliest. There's also an element to take into account, obviously, is that we also need to keep our key workers mobile. So that's another point really to take into account. Prime Minister insisted a lot yesterday on going back to work and restarting the economy, but the key point is to keep our key workers mobile. So that's also an element that needs to be taken into account from today, obviously.
Have you seen any new car sales over the last few weeks, and are they picking up?
No, not the sales, James. To be fair, the level of inquiries has come back the last 2 weeks, and quite strongly last week. We saw an evolution of over 40% week on week. As Louis said, we have our weekly RDC meeting and daily contacts with our dealers. And I would say the one we had last week was probably the most positive and enthusiastic over the past weeks. So the level of inquiries, of leads, of contacts was definitely coming back. So obviously people preparing for potentially a reopening or restart from this week. But again, we've been in that situation for weeks now. So I think people have had time to query, to investigate, and are now interested in potentially moving to purchase, which should be reinforced by what the Prime Minister said yesterday, because he clearly encouraged not to use public transport, but potentially to drive. And we've seen in the last 2 weeks, I think everybody was expecting that, a strong acceleration in used cars inquiries.
There's been different pictures that have come out of Europe. You're clearly very close to those other markets and have information. When it comes to Germany and Austria, who have been allowed to open, some reports out of those countries were that the inquiries simply weren't there. They saw 50% of the customers they were expecting. This morning I had information that the used car market, on the other hand, was at 90% and 80% respectively for those two countries than it was back in February. What have you seen from your colleagues that could give us some hope when it comes to the UK exiting lockdown?
And obviously, I look at it quite closely, and as I said earlier, we've been hit 2-3 weeks after the rest of Europe. So it's obviously it's worth looking at the others and benchmarking and taking good ideas. Germany specifically, obviously, I've been looking at it closely. I'm in contact with my colleague there every day. The service has been back on track very rapidly. The week they reopened, actually, they came back to 70% of the activity they had the same week last year. So 70%. Well, you can think that obviously some of these cars had been immobilized for quite some time, so needed some servicing. But service came back rapidly. Used car, as you said, also quickly, and especially for smaller prices. And what my colleague told me, it's also a lot of customers that do not have any part exchange, so potentially newcomers to the car ownership. So probably the point about being a bit scared about using public transport and feeling safer to have their own car to go to work or to wherever. So that's another element. And indeed, it's been quite slow in new, even if it's picking up now. So the level of inquiry was 50% of what was expected. Still a lot through online, so still a lot digital. People not going to the dealership but inquiring online. But they see an acceleration, and they've seen an acceleration in the last days. And to be fair, the more the factories are producing again, the more we are coming to something a bit more normal. I think the more people come back to dealers, to contact dealers in order to inquire for new cars. But new cars obviously takes a bit more time than the other activities in the dealership.
So what do you think is going to happen here? Again, another crystal ball moment, but what do you think is going to happen when this lockdown does ease?
I would think it's probably going to be a bit similar. And again, I was talking about Germany, but we've seen it also in Austria, in Switzerland, in China, where all this started. So basically, new cars will take some time. Used car is probably quicker. People, and for newcomers, so people that consider having a car while they never had. Some of them have had their license for years and never had a car. So that's something that might definitely happen. More for smaller prices, obviously. So used cars or brands like Dacia, for example, can be a perfect answer to that demand with smaller prices, warranty, and everything. So that's probably what is going to come. I think the fact that people have been using digital and online so much for the last years, again, we are all experts now in Teams, in Zoom, in all these tools that we hardly knew 2 or 3 months ago, or at least that I knew much less than I do now. And I think this will stay. So I see. We've been quite slow as an industry, and our customers the same as well, to move to digital compared to other industries. The car, you need to touch the price and all that. I think it's still the case, but I think we will move towards a phygital experience more and more. I think these habits will remain. There will still be a need for a contact, the possibility to see the car, to touch it, and to have an interaction with somebody, but probably at a much later stage that it's been prior to the crisis.
I've certainly seen that with the dealers that I've been chatting to, and a lot of the big groups have really been pushing heavily there an online sales solution. Louise, I'm just going to turn to you on that. I think I'm right in thinking that you were in charge of Dacia when they put in place this buy online function. What did you see back then, and have you seen a sudden acceleration of use of that now?
Yes, I was, James. Indeed, I worked on that project. No change really in the functionality of what we introduced. End-to-end part exchange was I remember a major part for the UK markets that we had to develop locally. End-to-end, clearly working with our own bank RCI, end-to-end digitalisation, ID, check-in, removing all those pieces of paper that people needed to do. But still, what we did see was people going to dealerships to test drive. As Vincent said, you still had this element of physical, seeing and touching the car, but what they tended to do then was to go back, clearly, I don't know, you've got young children at home, busy job, you go back and finalise the transaction is what we saw. Clearly now what we're seeing, in fact, is that the whole process is happening from start to finish. And yes, we continue with that, and we've seen much more traffic onto the site. We're offering now actually free home delivery. If people are worried even about coming on, then we will offer delivery when clearly things are lifted or whatever guidelines we have for delivery, and we will do that as well, really to remove all of the worries that they have. But really no change to that. They're looking for quick delivery, within 2 weeks is what we guarantee. They're looking for a fixed price. They're looking for the warranty, that's for sure, on a new vehicle, but it's just the ease of doing it at home. And I think the fact that we have a network there that they know, then they can go and see and touch at any issues. It's that perfect then blend of those two experiences, I think, that makes it so important. As I said, from all the dealers we speak to, they're all adapting to that now, and really that for me is our role, is to give them more and more tools as a manufacturer to help them in that process, so they can generate now online business, so that they can fulfill that for when we come the other side, they can deliver those vehicles. So that's really for me our role. So Dacia Buy Online was really just at the forefront of it, as I said, that we launched, and now obviously we continue with online and lots of other new tools that we've developed. So only 2 weeks ago we got the virtual showrooms coming online. We now have a stock locator online where you can reserve effectively a vehicle online, and end-to-end financial transactions with RCI, as I've mentioned. In fact, the very piece that we developed for Dacia Online, we've now moved across to our Renault brand. So again, a customer can actually do everything virtually now with us, end-to-end, even with their credit and any form of finance that they wish to take. All they'll need then, clearly at the end, is delivery of the vehicle that we'll wait for. So yes, lots of things. And I think again, talking to the dealers, they've really welcomed that, and to be honest, thanked us for that. Many groups clearly are, have the resources to do that, but many of our smaller dealer groups, independents, they really rely on us heavily to do that, and I think we've been really leading that front for them. So it's really helped them. They've said to do business at home. Many staff, admin staff furlough, but at management level, it's allowed them to rely on our systems effectively then just to deal with the lead and to take over in terms of the contact with that customer. So it's been really good, I think, and accelerated enormously what we'd already started.
Vincent, do you think that digital change is now going to be accelerated, as Louise has pointed out? And do you think this is going to become a normal for dealers as they go forward? Is this the catalyst for change to digital that the industry needed?
I definitely think it could be, James. Not sure 100%, but I think it will be. Again, as I said, these habits that have been taken will stay. I think there will be still some concerns about going out, socializing, and everything. So everything that you will bring to people's home will be welcome. And Louise mentioned it, but we have introduced the virtual showroom, and the results are very encouraging. Among everything we've done, and we've done some very good work, and I really want to thank my marketing team for that. We have accelerated a lot of our projects during this period. Of everything we've done, virtual showroom was probably the best results of all we've had. So you interact with a human being basically that is presenting the vehicle to you, and we've had in the course of a few days we've had more than 200 people, and these leads are very qualitative one, and the level of satisfaction is at the best. So I think this could definitely become something more and more, and we've decided to invest further into it. More and more present in the industry, and from this week we will also advertise that functionality, which we hadn't so far. You had to visit our website to find it out. We will now advertise it and to try to take it to another stage.
Do you think a stimulus package is needed to kickstart the industry, and if so, what should that look like?
Maybe it's difficult to say it's needed. The government has already contributed a lot, especially with the furlough plan in helping us all to go through this crisis in the best possible way. It wouldn't do any harm, definitely. And basically, what I could see as something win-win for everybody. Again, I think we have all experienced in these last weeks the incredible impact this crisis had, the positive impact, there is at least one, the positive impact this crisis had on the pollution and the quality of the air around us. So I'm living in London. I've never seen London like that. I see the sky in a color I never saw before. Lots of benefits for that. So I think people will probably want to continue that and will not be prepared to come back to the level of pollution we experienced earlier. So I could see something supporting a switch from older vehicles to potentially low emissions vehicle being welcome for everybody. It will be a difficult period for everyone. So to invest into supporting the business will probably be difficult, but to invest in that way, I think would make a lot of sense in order to accelerate. You said for digital and online, I think this crisis could be also an opportunity to accelerate the move towards cleaner vehicles and less pollution in general.
So it sounds to me like that's some form of scrappage scheme. What if it was in that guise? What sort of vehicles would you like people to be effectively scrapping?
Now, to be fair, I don't mean necessarily it will mean scrapping. It could be switching, because obviously you will always have a used car vehicle or all that. But the idea would be to encourage this switching towards low emission vehicles, so EV, plug-in hybrid vehicles with probably a threshold in term of emission. I think that would encourage and convince people that are considering it, that want to keep the low level of pollution we are experiencing at the moment. It could be a very strong way to motivate them to move towards that. And ideally, if we could have a bit of also investments into infrastructures for electric vehicle, I think then it will be a very credible package.
And when do you think something like that should be implemented if they do it?
I don't know, James. It could be any time, but obviously it could be a strong signal for a restart. So it would be an excellent support for a restart. But again, I'm well aware that there will be a lot of needs for investing and financing. So it could be at a later stage as well. But I see it as a win-win one. We've experienced in the past some of these scrappage schemes that not always ended up into less polluting vehicles. I think it could be a nice way to make sure that we support the industry. All our competitors have been investing heavily, or all industry has been investing heavily in low emissions vehicles. So I think it will be a strong support for all the industry, and at the same time, a great benefit for all of us through less pollution.
What do you think the new car registration is going to look like at the end of May? April was clearly down 97.3%. What are your thoughts for May?
Alors, to be fair, we were based on the assumption that we would be able to reopen today.
Are you still there, Vincent?
I am. And can you hear me, James? Yeah. No, you cannot hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Vincent.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
So James,
I think sorry. Yeah, I think you've just come back a little bit. Sorry,
Okay.
we're losing you there.
Good. Sorry for that. No, sorry, what was your question, James?
The question, my question again was, what do you think the new car registration will look like for the end of May?
Yes.
Just how they're going to be down as much as April?
Alors, to be fair, we go with the SMMT forecast overall. Based on the assumption that we would be able to reopen today, we were working on a 65-70% down in the month of May. We'll see if we need to adjust that and reconsider it with what will be announced later today. But that's what we were working on. We were planning a better month of June, so closer to 80% of what it was last year, basically. And on the full year, we are working on the SMMT assumption, which is a -28% full year, which probably, depending on what will happen in May, but probably we'll need to review later today.
Louise, can I touch on your marketing plans for the Renault Group? What are you expecting dealers to do, and when they should get back to start promoting their businesses?
Yeah, well, clearly, obviously, as I've said, cash in is the king for them at the moment. So again, as per the tools that we have, we've really encouraged them to make sure they're online, obviously dealing with the leads, and not heavy investments at this point into marketing. Clearly, then, as we get more clarity, we can see some more consumer confidence, then obviously we will readjust the plan. But at this point, certainly for this half a year, we've said to minimise clearly their investments and to keep on a digital path, really just dealing, as I said, with what they have. We'll see for the second half, clearly, with the new products, as Vincent's mentioned, for us certainly coming through. Zoe, we talked about that for the virtual showroom. Zoe has been the star, clearly already of our showroom. So that demand that we talked about, and people's maybe wish to be more now environmentally friendly with lower emission vehicles, we're starting to see that actually in terms of what they're looking for. So for us, certainly, it will be very much on those sorts of products. As we've got the hybrids as well coming, that it will be those new products, and delivering what we have will be the minimum. But again, for me, what we have to manage with them is, efficient investments is the priority, but minimising their cash out at this point, and then we'll review for H2.
Apologies to those people watching and to you both. I'm a little bit slow. I think my internet connection is probably struggling a little bit, so I'm apologies for that. Vincent, just like to turn back to you. Do you think the government's done enough to help this industry out during this time? And then also, what are your hopes for the end of the furlough scheme?
I think, James, that the government has done a lot for the economy in general, not specifically for our industry, but a lot. The furlough plan was welcome, and is something that is definitely helping to mitigate the impact of this crisis. So yes, I think it's been. I was not necessarily expecting it, to be fair. So that was a good surprise, and that was welcome. If I compare with the rest of Europe or France, for example, they've had something similar, but that was applicable for part-time work, which, rather than having a cliff edge at the end of June, which might be a bit difficult, especially if we extend a bit the period we have to remain under lockdown, could maybe be a way to get out in a softer way, that only a stop at the end of June. So maybe considering allowing part-time work rather than the situation as it is today. So you work or you don't, which would support bringing some people back earlier and potentially keeping some others a bit longer, maybe throughout July or whatever. So well, that's something I could see happening, but the level of support so far has been great and welcome. Yes.
Yeah, I think it saved a huge amount of jobs so far, and it'll be interesting to see what the Chancellor comes up with. I think he's going to make a statement on that tomorrow. And I think following what we heard from the Prime Minister yesterday, it will probably focus his mind a little bit more to helping out those staff who are still on furlough. Just a couple more questions for you both. Vincent, just what on the new car sales front, SMMT is predicting 1.68 million for the remainder of this year. Do you think that's achievable, and what do you think next year will look like?
Alors, I think it's still achievable. Again, I think it's achievable, and to be fair, that's the assumption we've been working on based on the fact that we would restart business today. So in case this gets delayed, I start seeing it a bit difficult to achieve, to be clear. Voilà, so that's the main point. So challenging, and the rest of the year will be challenging anyway. The difficulty is that we've missed the best part of the seasonality of the market. June potentially could be an opportunity to mitigate a bit the impact, and then the pressure will be enormous for the end of the year to try to save what can be saved from this year. At the moment, we are still working with this SMMT assumption, so minus 28%. But again, which would probably need a restart now, which from what I understand from yesterday is not going to happen. So I think this assumption is probably at risk.
And what about next year?
I need the crystal ball for this one. But again, you have two elements. I think some people have postponed their purchase. There will be the economic situation might be very serious. People potentially will lose their jobs and all that. And we know that car is quite an investment. So we are doing everything we can with buy now, pay later, or with adapting our solutions for financing to make it as affordable as possible for people. But I think some obviously will delay their purchase. And at the same time, as I said earlier, there will probably be newcomers to the market, people that have never owned a car or that were using public transport that might be considering it, probably to the lower part of the market, obviously. So as I said earlier, with a brand with Dacia, we could benefit from that. So overall, I see this situation requiring easily 1 to 2 to 3 years to get back to normal in terms of figures.
That's quite some recovery time. Louise, what positive message would you like to send out to dealers watching this today?
Well, I think really, as we've discussed earlier, we saw the first, for me, really positive signs last week. Dealers are feeling, I can see, more confident themselves and gearing up for work and finding new ways to do business. So I think to say, certainly to our network out there, we're there to support you. As I said, I've been mightily impressed with the way that they've looked after their staff and their customers. And I would say, we're ready to help them. As we've mentioned, we're ready from today, we'll be ready tomorrow. And our ongoing discussions, we will develop more and more plans to help them, and the support that they need, we're going to put in place. So I think just, we're there to help them. I think that's been, reflected really in those weekly meetings. And we will, recapture that business. There's everything to be positive around. And as we've said, we've shortcutted the arrival of our new cars. They've got lots of cars to deliver. We'll get the cash flow back on track with them. And then we've got the new cars coming. So really, I think really positive view is probably the worst moment for us. But for the network, I think they have, once we can switch back on those deliveries, they've got really some great positives. So really just work with us, continue to work with us and talk to us directly, and we can move the business forward.
And what's the most important thing this crisis has taught you personally?
Personally, I think that we can do business much more online and virtually. Nothing really has stopped. Nothing has stopped in my relationship with the network. Nothing stopped in my relationship with my field teams. We continue to do business. And I think there are new ways and flexibility actually that I would like, that to continue with actually to probably make people maybe more, how can I say, efficient in the way that they do business, I think. And that maybe was the sort of injection that we needed. It's a painful one, but actually it's made us think really, I think, very differently about the way that we do business. So I'd like to continue that, working with the network in the future.
Vincent, is this going to change the way that your company is set up? Are you going to allow people to work from home more? Is it going to lead to more flexibility and less commuting for people?
No, we will definitely. That's another benefit of this crisis. It forces you to step back a bit and to think. So we were having work from home already before the crisis, but that's probably something we can encourage more. I've been surprised, like Louise, I've been surprised myself to see how much you can do remotely. I have weekly meetings with the staff with videos on and everything. 250 people connected, works very well. So there are probably a few things to really consider in terms of efficiency and also for people quality of life. Not going to the office, and I don't say I like it because I would love to interact with my colleagues, but it's saving me 2 hours commute every day. So that's something on a personal note, which nobody cares, but I've been doing sport every day for the last weeks, which I had not done for 20 years, basically. So I think that's definitely something we need to reflect on and see how we can, the key learnings we can get out of that. So definitely our relation with dealers also, I've been amazed to see how we can keep contact with them without having the possibility to visit them. I'm quite old school. I started in the network. I like to visit people, to shake hands, to have a coffee together. However, I realized that in many ways we can be much more efficient than we've been doing in the last years. So yes, we will definitely think of it and try to improve our efficiency.
And what's this crisis taught you, Vincent? What's the most important thing you'll remember from this?
Like Louise, the power of the online tools. I've been amazed by the reactions of my teams and of the dealers, I have to say, and the solidarity we've had all together. So one of the first reactions when we decided, as we saw the crisis coming from the other markets and blah, blah, I started talking with the team about sending people work from home 10 days before it was announced and everything. And one of the first reactions of people was, and what about the charities we are partnering with, which was excellent reaction. So we've made vehicles available and all that. So there was a strong mindset of solidarity, and absolutely the same with the dealers that have made cars available to key workers and to keep people mobile to fight against the virus. So that's something that surprised me. I was not shocked by it, but surprised me positively. So that was a good learning. Another one is that I think that, like any crisis, after the crisis, people will remember the way we've behaved through the crisis, and the fact that we've tried to prioritize before anything else the safety of our dealers, of our staff, and of our customers. I think will be remembered. The fact that we have decided to top up our people on furlough to 100% of their salary, despite the fact that financially it's a very difficult period, obviously, for all of us, is something that will be remembered. The actions that Louise mentioned that we've put in place in order to support our dealers and trying to make sure that there will be as little impact as possible, even if there will be, but as little impact as possible, will also be remembered. So I think I will also keep that. It's probably in this crisis period that your actions are the most important and will be remembered the most. And the last point, but that's obvious, but we've worked very hard preparing for the Brexit, and I think this work has not been wasted, because in a way it has prepared us to go through the crisis, which I see with the other countries, with my colleagues. We are miles ahead of them in terms of having worked on our fixed cost, agility, and lowering our dependency to forex or to potential external events.
We certainly haven't mentioned the B word for quite some time, and hopefully we won't have to for a while. But thank you ever so much to both of you for giving up so much of your time today. It's been absolutely fascinating to hear about your businesses, and I wish you the best of luck when it comes to getting back to work. And hopefully in just over an hour we'll have some decent news. So thank you to you both.
Thank you, James.
Thanks
for your time. Yeah, nice to speak to you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. So a huge thank you to Vincent and Louise for giving up their time. This week on the show, I've got some more great guests. Tomorrow, I'm going to be chatting to Wessex Garages MD Chris Wiseman. On Wednesday, it's Mike Allen, who's an analyst at Zeus Capital. He's going to be talking about the listed dealer groups and how they're faring during this time. On Thursday, I'm talking to Sherwood Motor Group's MD, and on Friday, it's the team from G-Forces to guide us through all things about online sales. If you want to get involved in Car Dealer Lives like this one, you can email me, james@blackbullmedia.co.uk, or you can find me on Twitter @CarDealerEd or on LinkedIn. And if you want breaking news sent direct to your phone, I've set up a Car Dealer Magazine WhatsApp group. First one's already full, but we've got another one filling up fast. Give me a shout on any of those methods I already mentioned. I'll send you a link and get you involved. Now, there's a full schedule for Car Dealer Lives on our website. Check back every weekday and midday for the next one, cardealermagazine.co.uk. So thanks once again to our guests for today, and I'll see you tomorrow. Goodbye.